y'all? Daniel Agapito here for Metal Rolls, and today I have the honor to be here with Cody, aka Maze Controller from the incredible Dungeon Crawl. For those of you that don't know, Dungeon Crawl is this incredible symphonic thrash band that's pretty hard to describe. I can't really describe them without you guys listening to it first. So yeah, take a listen. Record's been out for a while now through Carbonized Records. My review will be up in a few days, or it's already up depending on when this interview is up. And yeah, how are you, Cody?
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm great. Thanks a ton for having me. I appreciate, the awesome words about the album and, the sound and stuff. And like, yeah, I mean, totally like I know it's kind of like weird, like in terms of like it's like hard to put a pin on like, kind of what the like what to compare it to. I think like most people have told me like Children of Bodom. That's like one of the bands like we get compared to a lot, I feel like. But like I know people will hate me for this, but I'm actually like I know maybe like two Bodum songs. Ironically. But yeah, stoked to be here. Thank you for, taking the time to chat with me.
And yeah, I would like to start off by asking about this sound you guys have going on. Like, symphonic thrash isn't really something we see nowadays or have ever seen, especially within the like symphonic sphere. Symphonic death metal, we've seen symphonic black metal, we've seen a lot of,
Yeah.
but symphonic thrash is kind of an unexplored niche. How did you get this sound mixture?
Yeah, that's like a super great question. Like, yeah, like extreme bands have done it before, like Flesh God Apocalypse and stuff like that. You've seen, they have like the crazy, I mean, they're like insane, just like the precision and like how fast they play and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of like a um sorry, excuse me, like just a combination of the genres of metal that like I grew up with and I loved. Our drummer and I we were both really big fans of Rhapsody. Like he's more into, I mean, he's into extreme metal, mostly like black metal. And like a couple like he listens to death metal, not so much thrash. But the thrash influence was mostly me. Our first album was purely, thrash. And that was with a different group of guys that, I've been working with. But um, yeah, uh, it started off just as, you know, not like a generic thrash band, but it was, your typical thrash band but we had like, some melodic influences. It always kind of had that power metal influence, right? Where we had, like bands like Stratovarius and like Angra. Those are like some of my favorites. Um, So like a lot of melody in the riffs that I wrote, but a lot of it was primarily influenced by bands like Municipal Waste and Toxic Holocaust and Gamma Bomb and the big ones that made it through like the thrash revival, right? Um, and then when our drummer came on, he was like, "Oh, dude, if we kind of go in this direction, it would be sweet." Um, kind of because it already kind of has a little bit of a melodic edge, right? But we figured, if we add the whole, the power metal influence of Rhapsody and like the symphonic stuff, it would kind of take it to the next level, and that's what we did. And I'm, like super happy with the result, really happy with how it came out, and I'm like excited to keep, moving forward with it. I think it's gonna be sweet.
So you'd say from one album to another, it's been pretty much a natural evolution, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, just we always had that melodic sound. Like if you listen to some of the songs on the first album, there's like a lot of like, a lot of straight thrash, like death thrash kind of stuff, right? But then like some of the riffs are very like melodic. And like there's a lot of movement and I try to keep it pretty interesting. So like, just going from what we kept the like the extreme metal edge, right? Where it was like, like you can have, some death metal vocals on there or like, like um just very like intense, like because most of the time you hear power metal bands and it's like extreme cheese, and it's just like yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, but just like, the choruses are huge and like, like they have the same, like chord progressions and like they do a key change at the end to make it sound super triumphant or whatever, right? So um yeah, we're not progressive or anything like that, but I would, I like to think like there's definitely like a bit more than meets the eye with the sound, right? So
Thematically, you dive headfirst into the swords, the goblins, and everything to do with like tabletop RPGs. Could you talk
yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit more about these themes you guys touch on?
For sure, yeah. I mean, like you said, it's very like thematically it's basically just D&D and like tabletop games, it never really goes super deep into like where I'm like, a lot of the lyrics that I write aren't like politically charged or like, like they don't have like underlying references to like, like a buddy of mine, somebody that I'm working with on like a new project that we were talking about Morbid Angel and like, there's like on Domination, there's the song Where the Slime Live, and it's like you can kind of like interpret that as like maybe it's like some kind of like racist undertones or something, right? Like oh, like maybe he's got like some kind of like hatred towards a specific group of people or something. The lyrics that I write are just purely like like um tongue in cheek, I would say. It's supposed to be fun. And like what a lot of people, like turn to music for is just like escapism. And it's just about like affecting your emotions, and kind of like bringing you to a new, um, like a new state of like a new mentality, like help you like, feel a certain way. And it's all just, just pure fun. Like, I really, uh the main reason I wanted to go for that that themes or first and foremost it's like I don't feel that strongly about any kind of like politics or I don't really have like a voice and stuff like that. So you know um figured why not just write about something that I love and I like already, and kind of come up with cool imagery and um, ways to tell stories. Yeah, because I mean, you tell stories when you're playing D&D, right? That's like the whole point of it is to tell a story. But also, I figured, it's a new way to do it through the music, right? And the songs, a lot of them very there's no concept album, like we haven't done a concept album or like an EP or anything like that. We eventually I want to do that, but for the most part it's just like uh everything is self-contained within the song. It's like either about, something to do with the game, or like it'll be like a song about like, like a story that, like inspired by um one of the tabletop sessions that I run or something like that, right? So, yeah.
Do you feel like metal needs these less serious, more fun bands?
Yeah, I I mean, it's different for everybody. Everyone has everyone's problems are different, and I feel like people turn to music for different reasons. Um, and definitely having something, like serious things that you can identify with. Um, people identify with, I don't know, like a good example, maybe like Insect Warfare or like, these bands where it's like there are, political themes and like undertones. Um, Maybe not Insect Warfare. I don't know if that's like a great example. I haven't read their lyrics in a long time, but something like that, like but yeah, I mean, definitely having, bands like us in the space where it's like, like I feel like in our scenario, right, where a lot of the extreme bands, um, they kind of have the themes of like that are more serious, right? Whether it's like death or not the band death, but like the theme of death, or like the themes of like mental illness or stuff like that. Like the extreme bands are very much like in that space, whereas like the I guess you could say like the cheesy bands, who you know uh who do touch on themes of like dragons and stuff like that. Like I think we're like a good medium where we meet in the middle, where it's like, yeah, we're kind of tongue in cheek. Like the lyrics are like not serious, but the music is, right? So, um, extreme, right?
And although the songs fall into similar themes, there is no like overarching story between the new album Roll for Your no between Roll for Your Life and the new album, right?
Right, yeah, yeah. I do like I would like to have something like that eventually. And in hindsight, it's like, you like in the moment. It was kind of hard to like determine like, okay, is this gonna go somewhere? When we were first starting out, it's I didn't know how far we were gonna be able to take it. If there was gonna be a second album, I would have loved to have done something like that. And I think going forward, we're pretty established now and pretty serious, and we're out there playing live. And the pandemic was pretty rough because I'm sure like everybody says the same thing, but it's like couldn't play shows. That's like when we had first got together was right before the pandemic. Or I think it was like in the middle of the pandemic, like just in the beginning. And it was like, okay, this isn't gonna last very long, and of course it did. And then we didn't have the ability to play shows but we recorded the album. Um, and like I said, we didn't know how far it was gonna go. So if it was, um, if it had been, I think it would have been cool, right? If there was like a story across to bridge the two. Kind of like the Rhapsody with their the Emerald Sword Saga, right? That whole thing is just like from Legendary Tales up until I think it's like Symphony of Enchanted Lands 2, or maybe even what's the one after Symphony 2? Um, the one that nobody listens to. I can't remember the title, but um, yeah, that whole saga is just like, you know, there's a story and people have made like documents that are like, like 30 pages long, and it has like all the lore and stuff like that. That would have been so cool. But yeah, I think it would be cool to craft something like that. Because I do have, stuff in my brain where it's like I've got like, concrete ideas for like some homebrew stuff that I work on for tabletop sessions. So yeah, it would be awesome to do that.
And yeah, keeping on the same line of reasoning, the new album also has some songs from Plus One Demo, which was the first thing you made with Dungeon Crawl. Are there
Right, yeah.
any Is there anything you haven't explored with Dungeon Crawl that you'd still like to venture into? Anything that you'd still like to do? Any demo material maybe?
Yeah, I mean, the demo was um the first song, or not the first song, but on the demo, the one song that we used became the title track, right? Maze Controller. Because the rest of the songs were on Roll for Your Life. Uh, um, there are a few things there are a few things that my buddy and I, like when we first started working on the project. He moved, he moved a couple times, and he's no longer in the area, so like we don't work on stuff any longer, and he's not part of the project. But there were a few things that we had that we never released that I think would be cool. They're like a little bit different stylistically, but they keep because he wrote one of the songs on the first album, which is Last Call. And that was used, and he had a few other things that were kicking around that like maybe I could get his blessing to use now, um, which would be really cool. But like simultaneously, there have been like riffs and song ideas and the concepts that I've had for probably like, you know, 8 years at this point, and like I've rewritten one specific song like 3 times, um, and each time I feel like it's getting better, but it's you know, yeah, I mean there are a few things definitely, and in terms of like style, we've got the dungeon synth, aspect too, and like the symphony stuff too. So there's like a lot of wiggle room, I feel like, where we can go in different directions, to kind of keep it interesting. We're not limited to just, you know, guitars and bass and vocals and drums. Um,
Pivoting briefly back into the first album, what would you say were like the main takeaways from Roll for Your Life?
yeah, main takeaways. I would say, um, in terms of like the production, um, I love the way it sounds. Eh, I do think maybe, um, uh, man, it's a tough one. I mean, definitely it helped me like build, songwriting skill. And it helped me, kind of like establish like like my voice. Um, Previously, I kind of like with that album, it was kind of where I found, my voice and like the style that I was going for. Because previously, if you listen to like the first single that we put out, which is Crypt of a Thousand Eyes, that was in April of 2021. And then, the Plus One demo, um, the vocal style is like way different, right? And I think it just kind of like helped me, uh, also just songwriting ability, and then also it was where I really, kind of like pushed myself to, get better at like lead guitar playing, right? Because I did all the leads on that album. Um, and it was kind of like a make or break point for me where it was like, okay, I really gotta like, I want this to be good, I really have to kind of sit down and force myself to like, get good. And it taught me a lot too about like, band dynamics, um, just like who, like, what to look for with people, like when you're working together in like a studio. Um, and like those guys are all awesome, and like I still keep in touch with like because the lineup on the first album was completely different. Um, my buddy Chris, and then the drummer Javi, and then the bass player at the time, Armando. But I talked to Javi and Chris still, and it just kind of like you know just taught me like like how to I guess collaborate with other people, right? Where because previously it was just like I do it's all like in a silo, like I'm all by myself. I work on the music by myself, and like I learned a lot about just not um I don't want to say compromising, like about compromising, taught me about compromising, but like I would say, it taught me how to be more open-minded in terms of like ideas and stuff. Yeah. So,
Mm. And moving on to the lore side of things, the
yeah,
band is led by the maze controller, which is,
yeah.
at least in my eyes, the subject matter of this new album. And who
Yeah.
exactly is the maze controller?
Yeah, well, it's like, it started, I mean, it's my stage persona. Kind of like it's where it's like who I am, I guess, like, on stage. Um and I guess like in terms of like running tabletop games, right? Like if I were like the orchestrator of the group. And yeah, I mean it started out as just like that was like the title of the album, and the title track of the song. And then it became like oh, this would be like a like a persona, like if we need somebody, kind of like I guess like the band leader, right? And like as much as like I would love to have like a super established like lore, a backstory for like, the entire group or whatever, right? We're still kind of like working through it right now and figuring out the most solid approach to things. You know, so
In the promo material that I received, it was said the composition is shared between you and the Red Wizard Magnus Scrota. Who is he
yeah.
exactly? And if you don't have the lore established yet, how were the composition duties split between you guys?
Yeah, yeah, I mean he's a drummer. Um, yeah, he's that's like, his his stage persona and essentially, like we just worked together to write the album. I wrote, lyrics and the riffs and all that stuff. And then there were parts where it was like, okay, we need to edit if you listen to like Maze Controller on the demo. And then on the album, it was extended. We like took it like another minute, and then added this like, solo section. And then it was like, um, we were working on it together, and I was like, okay, like, well, like, how about this? And then initially it had like a completely different beat, and it wasn't as long. Uh, and then he was like, oh, dude, like, what if we do like, you know, the Slayer beat where it's like, the ride, like the, with the snare. Um, so we did that. And then I was like, okay, what if we make it like even longer? So we pushed it and then we made it longer. So the solo got extended. And I think it like really, it was like, stuff like that, was, whereas like I had the ideas and then like we kind of just shaped them, like changed specific parts, extended, um, different parts too. Um, and then like initially I wrote like a lot of you know, the um the tracks, like the orchestra stuff. And then he just took it and then reshaped it and added onto it and stuff like that too. So that's kind of like where we are. That's how we work together. It's a lot of like iterating, sending back and forth, not so much like in the room where it's like I mean, he can work in both styles, thankfully, right? But sometimes you meet people where it's like, they only want to do it, like in the jam space. And I got two kids, so it's kind of like hard to carve out time where it's like I can be in like a studio for like 4 hours just jamming, right? And like working on shit. So I kind of like, like to do my stuff focused at home, where I'm like, I can write, and come back to it in like 20 minutes or whatever, and then like, add some more stuff and then come back, right? So that's kind of like how I work. And he's got like, he's down for both too, so which is awesome.
The artwork this time around is provided by James Buscema and portrays what I'd say is the process of maze control. Could
Yeah, yeah.
could you talk a bit about it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, it's probably, I mean, if I had not commissioned it and, like worked with him and then I had seen that, like, I probably would have thought it's like, I mean, I don't want to toot his horn or my own horn, right? But it's probably like one of the most stunning covers I've seen, for a metal album. The guy is just like, James is so talented and um extremely creative and just like really, really good at what he does. And that's how I found him. Was he in, I think it was like 2022. He did the cover piece for Municipal Waste, Electrified Brain. And I saw it and I was like, this is like next level. So, you know, um, I reached out to him and then we met on a call, like this, right? And he gave me we talked for maybe like an hour, just kind of like about, concept. I was like, just a dude, kind of like lording over a labyrinth, being like the ominous presence that is like, looming above, a group of adventurers or whatever in lost inside of a maze, and then he gave me three concepts, and then um, I still have them. They're like sketches. Uh, and then the one of them, the one that we chose was the galactic, you know, cosmic wizard in space who's just like, controlling the it's not a planet, but like the maze, right? Yeah, just in like the colors. I gave him like some reference images. I was like, okay, like this, like, and not so much in terms of um like composition or style, but I was like just colors. I was like this color. I mean, one of the ones that I think I referenced was a dragon that was painted by Jeff Easley, who is one of the um like the four horsemen of the original D&D artwork, like the 80s run of D&D artists who did all the amazing like advanced D&D covers and stuff like that. It was like one of this like really vibrant red dragon. And I was like, these colors are like sick. And then he was like, okay, I'm gonna try to use something like that. And then it was, came with the red, the wizard with um the red robe, and that's kind of how that came to being, the color scheme.
And the album has been out for a decent while now, late September, right? Around
Yeah,
that.
yeah, the 20th. Yeah, September
Uh,
20th.
and
Yeah.
how has the repercussion been so far? Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, um, seeing people talk about it online, it's just been, I mean, there's been, I feel like nothing but like positive feedback, right? A lot of people who were unexpected, like it was like a lot of unexpected reactions, like, or people who had like, I see some people comment where it's like, oh, they were anticipating that it was going to be like, you know, something cheesy or whatever, or definitely blew away their expectations, just in terms of the sound and yeah, I mean, there was maybe like I think one comment on YouTube or something like that where some dude was like falsely claiming that it was AI or some shit, just random people on the internet. Like, I mean, there's always, I feel like this happens with everybody where you release like your artwork, this is something that you've dedicated, hundreds of hours to, and you just poured yourself into, and there's like hundreds of positive comments or whatever, like just a lot of buzz, and then there's that one person who just there's like one single negative comment and it ruins your entire vibe, right? Yeah, I feel like that's very common for a lot of people, but I mean, I think after a certain point, it just kind of it doesn't really you kind of see past it, right? It's just miserable people being miserable for no reason, or because they're upset with themselves or whatever. But yeah, just a lot of good feedback. I think, like I said earlier, a lot of comparisons to the Children of Bodom. Um, and uh, I think like I mean, there's a few other bands too that people compares to, and the main one like I've seen a few times is Rhapsody, but like they traded power metal for thrash, and that's like exactly what I was going for. I'm not as good of a songwriter or like a composer, and those guys are like insane, on like another planet. But like if I could have their songwriting skill, that's what I'm working towards, right? Like just being, I'm not classically trained or anything like that, but yeah, it's been good so far though.
And now looking forward, what does the future hold for Dungeon Crawl?
Yeah, so working on the next record. Uh really would like to, I think maybe have 5 or 6 songs roughly done, just like in a rough shape for the next album, and then we want to do, a couple more instrumentals. I think ultimately maybe something similar to what we have on this last one, where it's 8 or 9 songs that are like standalone metal songs, and then two instrumental pieces of like the synth stuff. Uh, but yeah, I think would really like to play some festivals. You hear it, you're in Brazil, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, never been to South America, so that'd be cool. Eventually, like one of these days. I have a buddy who's touring with Warbringer soon. They're going to South America with, I think it's like Venom.
yeah.
But
With Venom.
yeah, 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 yeah. He's filling in for guitar for Warbringer. But yeah, I mean, play some festivals here in America. Like there's tons of them all the time. And then do I really want to do like a little mini tour or something to support the album. But we have some like life stuff that's happening. So it might not be the best time. I think January we might have um, like a 3-day weekend where we do some shows and more regionally, like outside of where we are. But still to be decided if it's gonna happen or not. So yeah, really want to make some moves though. We just played last weekend um, in Santa Cruz, which is like 30 miles away from me. And it was fun. We played with a band of orcs and then War Troll, who are buddies of ours, and then I think there was a System of a Down tribute band called System of a Clown. And they wear like clown makeup and stuff. They're pretty
System of
cool.
a Clown's amazing. I've heard of them. They're
Okay, cool. Yeah,
incredible.
yeah. Nice. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they were like really cool to watch. Um, yeah, so yeah, man.
And yeah, to close off here, do you have any final message, any final words you'd like to share with the Metal Rules audience?
Yeah, be gentle when you listen to my album. No, I mean, I hope you like it. If there's anyone watching this who wants us to play, uh, near you, obviously hit us up and get us in touch with promoters or just always tell me what you think of the album. I always love to hear what people think about, the stuff that I do. Yeah, I mean, if you're writing music, freaking keep doing it and don't give up on your dreams. I haven't
And yeah,
yet.
that's it. Thank you so much for your time, Cody. Thank you guys for
Cool.
watching. And go listen to Dungeon Crawl because it's great.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much.